Hi everyone and welcome to the channel and welcome to another episode of Learning CAD Sketcher for Beginners, where we're teaching the fundamentals of CAD Sketcher, an add-on that you can add to Blender. So in this video we're going to be looking at creating this. Now this is to teach the concept of mirroring. So we're going to be looking at mirror modifiers and how we use them with CAD Sketcher. So I hope you're enjoying these videos and let's have a look at this lesson. So I started a new project in Blender. I'm going to select the cube, the default cube, right click and delete. So now I can create my sketch and come over to the right hand side of the flyout bar and use the sketcher and add a sketch upon this plane here. This will be the XY plane. So looking directly down, let's use our viewpoint of Z to look directly down onto our sketching surface. So in here I'm going to sketch the left hand side of the object. I'm going to use some simple geometry to show the mirroring there across different planes. I'm going to create a rectangle. I'm going to add the rectangle to the screen along the left hand side. Right click to get the pointer back, and let's take this line and this point, shift click both of those, and we're going to add a symmetrical constraint against these, which is going to be a midpoint constraint. So come over to the tools and use the midpoint. That means this will move in and out this way. So now we can add some height. So click on this line, add a distance. I'm going to set this, left click on it and come in and set the distance to 30 millimeters and hit enter. So we've got our 30 millimeter distance in there. And now we're getting the base dimensions in. So I'm going to take the bottom and add a distance. I'm going to set that, zoom in a bit so we can see what we're doing, and move this up. See how it highlights, so click on that and set the distance. I'm going to set this one to 20 mil. So we've got the left hand side starting to appear. I'm going to create a bevel between these two, just to add some detail. We click the bevel tool, left hand side, and then select the point that we want to bevel from, click once, and we get this crosshair. Now I'm not holding the mouse pointer down or anything, I'm just moving this down. And what I'm going to do is connect up the center point of the bevel to be in line with this point. So I've just clicked to cancel the bevel, got the bevel in there. I'm going to take this center point. First of all, right click, cancel the bevel, right click to get the tool back, your pointer. And we can either set a radius in here or a diameter, or we can take this point and shift click this point in here. If I can get in there, let's zoom in a bit. So we can come in, we may need to come in, there we go. So shift click this point and make sure they're horizontally aligned. This locks this bevel down. So this is locked now. And we can start adding in some more detail with some holes. So I'm going to use the circle. I'm going to place two circles in here. And I'm going to constrain these so they're symmetrical across here. So they're in the center. And the way to do that, that's right click to get the mouse pointer back, is to use some symmetry constraints in here, also known as midpoint constraints. But we're going to have to use a piece of construction geometry in the form of a line to center this. Because we can't center between 3 points, it's only point on a line. So click on the line, click on this point, and come across to this point here. That's connected. Right click to get the mouse pointer back, and then click on the line and right click and set that to construction. So it's dotted now. We now can take the point of the circle and shift click the construction geometry and set a midpoint constraint, this one here. Click midpoint. So this is constrained now in the center of this line. Therefore, in the center of these 4 points, because we've gone on the diagonal across there. We can do the same here as well by using a line. Now to get it in construction mode, we can right click set construction, or we could use the drawing on the right hand side under tools, set it to construction. We're now in construction mode. So when we create our line from this point and this point, it's automatically in construction. Right click to cancel, and take this point, shift click the line and set the midpoint. Let's turn off construction mode. And we've got these two centered. I'm going to make both of these equal by shift clicking them. Make those equal. And we can set some radius on one of these. Let's click on this one. Well, it's going to be diameter. So click the diameter and let's click on that. So we need to come in and click on the actual measurement there, the number there. So click on that once, come down and set this one to 5 millimeters and hit enter. So we've got that there. We've got a fully defined sketch. Everything is locked down. Let's change our sketch, convert type, and set this to a mesh. And then leave the sketch. The shape has been filled because the tick on the shape fill is checked. And we've got this mesh here. We're going to mirror this now. Now with mirroring, it all depends where this center point is. So you can see this 3D cursor here. We can move the 3D cursor with this one. And if I add a modifier to this sketch, so click on the sketch, come down to the modifier, the spanner icon here, add modifier, drop this down, and we should find in here a mirror. So come over and we use the mirror. So this is mirrored across that 3D cursor there, that center point, the point of origin. You can see the little point in there. And if I move my 3D cursor away from this point and right click, set origin, this will move as well, this mirror. We're going to do that in a moment. So now we've got this in here. That adds some depth to this. So I'm going to solidify this with a solidify modifier. Make sure that sketch is selected here. Go into the modifiers, which we're already in. Add modifier, add solidify, and set the thickness over on the right hand side here. So we've got the mirror here. That's collapse that thickness, and we'll set that to 3 mil. Click off, and we've got the thickness on our object. It's going downwards at the moment, which is fine. We can sketch upon the base plane, or if we set this the other way to 1, so offset is 1, so it's going upwards now, we would have to attach a plane to the face. So I'm going to do that because this is one of the most common features in CAD, that you add planes to faces. So now we've got the solidify modifier on, we can add a plane to this face. We've come to the point where we need to add a plane to this face. To do that, we scroll down to the left hand side, and this plane we will sketch upon. So here we've got add work plane, long click on that and add work plane or mesh face. To use it, we need to select the face and then right click to cancel. That plane has been added to that face, and you can see it there. So it's sitting upon that face. We can move it via the center point, but we need to center this center point because this is where the center of the sketch will be. So we're trying to center things in our sketch. Once we add a sketch to this, it's going to go around this point. To do that, let's select that center point and then come down on the right hand side on the Sketcher flyout and look for entities. If we open that up, you can see this red selected entity here. This is this point. We can double click on the edit button to move it. So we've got location along the X. If I move that, you can see how that moves up and down. And also, if I double click, we got location on the Y as well. So we can zero these out. So let's double click on that and zero out the X, hit enter, and do the same for the Y and zero that out as well and hit enter. So that plane now is laying on that face. And if we look, you can see, well, it's moved down. So when I double clicked on this, you can see it seems to have moved itself down. Let's set this back to 3 mil. Hit enter. That's sitting on that face now. So now we've got that plane positioned, we can add a sketch to it. Let's collapse the entities and come up to add sketch. And we select the plane. So it's going to be this plane here. And we click on it. The sketch has now been added to that plane. And we can see that that's sitting up on there. There's our center point here. Let's add a circle. Click on the circle and create a circle in here. Now I'm going to create two circles, one for the inner and one for the outer. Right mouse button to cancel. We've got the mouse pointer back and we can add some constraints. Let's set some constraints on the inner. The diameter. At the moment it's 8.3. If we zoom in, we can click on that and set it. So I'm going to set this to 7 and hit enter. And I'm going to do the same with this one. Let's set this one, click on it and set the diameter. You can see that diameter is in there. We've got the 7 and the 8 on top of each other. So what we need to do is take one of these constraints. So the inner constraint here, let's click on that. At the moment, we've got the wrong one. So let's pull this one around this way. So now we can select the inner one, size 7mm, and uncheck visible. So that gets rid of that. And we can deal with this one alone. So let's click on that constraint and set the size. I'm going to set it to 10. So we've got those two in there. It's a fully defined sketch. Now I can leave the sketch and we can see that sketch is sitting upon that face. I can take that sketch and what I need to do is convert it to a mesh because I can't see it on the right hand side here. So come in, convert the type to a mesh and leave sketch. It appears on the right hand side here. Now I can select it, add a modifier, add a solidify and increase its size. We're going to go in the positive direction, so 1, and set the thickness here to something like, let's go for 50 in here. So we've got this in here. That might have been a bit too much. So this is a bit too much. Let's bring this down, say 25. So you can see we can change that whenever we want. I can say 10. So we've got this so far. So we created a mirror and then created this feature on top. Now I want to create a hole that goes through here, but I want to use mirroring to allow for that. So we can use a mirror and a boolean to remove that from there. So what do we need? We need another plane on here that we can sketch upon. And we're going to come in and add work plane. Click the side, right click to add. Now if we look, the work plane has been added, but you can see, well, if we look from the top, it's not straight. So now we need to select the work plane itself and then come over to the entities and find it within here. You see it here, double click on the edit and we get this orientation. So we can change the angle of this work plane to what we want. So I want it at 90 degrees to the object. So you can see that's at 90 degrees there. And if we look at the top, we can see how that's nice and straight against there. So now we can add our sketch upon this work plane. Let's come up. I've got the work plane selected, so I can hit add sketch. That's added the sketch to that work plane, so you can see this point still here. And we can use a circle against that point and come out. So we've got the circle against there. And let's add some diameter to it by first right clicking to get our mouse tool back, the solve space select the circle, diameter, and we'll set that diameter by clicking on it and set it to 3mm and hit enter. So we've got the 3mm here. What I'm also going to do is to allow for some mirroring so we can understand how to mirror across this way, is to add an inner circle as well. And we're going to extrude it or solidify it. Come in, use that center point. If we can't get the center point, well, let's right click, click on the diameter and set the visible to false. use the circle, add another circle on that center point, right click to cancel, and then use the diameter against the center. So you can either select, use the diameter, or make sure nothing's selected, use the diameter, and then select which circle you want. Let's change this, click on it, and make this 2 mil. So we've got 2 millimeters in there. What I need to do now is extrude this. So we're going to convert again to mesh, and then we leave the sketch. This means we get a second sketch, and we can add a modifier. We use the solidify, and this time I'm going to use a thickness of around about 2 millimeters. We need to offset this. So you can see at the moment it's gone inwards. So we want to bring this out. So I'm going to go -1. And you see that's gone inwards. So that's changed this to 1. That's there. But you can see the gap in behind there because it's gone from the plane outwards. So I'm going to bring the offset back in by 0.5. So we've got that embedded inside there. Now we've got that, let's add some mirroring. Now I'm going to mirror over the center point here. So I'm going to add another modifier and use the mirror. At the moment it's modifying over the X. So you can see I bring this around this way, looking at it upside down, but we need to mirror over to this point here. Along the Y, and you can see nothing's happening, but if we mirror along the Z, take the X off, you see how that's mirrored over that center point there. Let's take that Z off, and you can see how that's being mirrored. So it's being mirrored internally in there over that point of origin. So we need to change the point of origin of this object to allow it to mirror over to the other side. The 3D cursor is in the right place. Let's take that Z off so we can see what happens. See this 3D cursor here? Let's right click, go up to set origin and origin to 3D cursor. Note on the right here that the sketch is selected. So this means that when I right click set origin, origin 3D cursor, then the origin is set, and you'll see that the orange dot, the orange point that was in here is now here. This is the origin. If we look at our mirror now, when I hit the Z, it mirrors over to the other side. So we have our model, and we need to add the hole through the center. So I'm going to quickly do that by adding a work plane to mesh face. And I'm going to click this point and right click to cancel. So we've got the work plane sitting there, and that's nicely aligned with that face where it should be, but you can see it's at an angle here. So we do the same. We need to click on that plane and come down to the entities and find it in here. Double click and look at the X, and we need to set that X to 90. So it's nice laying flat upon that face there, and I can now add the sketch to that face. So add sketch, that's added to that face because it's already selected. We've added it to there, and that's add the hole in here. So just a circle. We can set some diameter. Zoom in. Set that. Zoom in so we can get it. There we go. 2 mil. Convert type to mesh and leave the sketch. We've got that in there. Add modifier. So we're adding a modifier to that sketch. You can see it's selected up here. Add modifier, solidify, and we can create a thickness in here, and we're going the right way. So we can set this, and we want it to punch out the other side. So we can set that to 20 or whatever thickness we want this set to, as long as it's long enough. It's going out the other side there. And we can use that in our boolean. The offset we can adjust to get it to the right place, and some thickness as well to increase this thickness up. 15. And the offset doesn't need to be an exact size because we're going to use that as a boolean cut. So now we've got these in here, we can start boolean these together. So this one is going to be for the cut, and all the rest are going to be unions. Let's come to the top, click on the sketch, the first one, add modifier, and we look for boolean in here. So we've got a boolean modifier, and we can use a union, and we select the object, which is going to be this one, add it to there. Now we could add these to a collection. So we've got a collection in there. So use a collection of meshes as the operand for the boolean operations. But I'm just going to add another modifier, and we get to collections in another lesson. I'm going to keep this all to do with mirroring. So boolean object, add another one, and we'll add this one here, sketch 2. So it's added there as well. So sketch 1 can be hidden, and sketch 2 can be hidden, but you can see if we hide it, it's just taking a chunk out of there. So we need to come back into where we've booleaned and have a look. We've set this to difference. So let's set that to union. That's done that one. And finally, we need to add this one as the cut. So add modifier, boolean, and we're going to add the object. We want this one in here, and we want that one as the difference. So we can hide now the whole cut, one we selected, and that's place a hole all the way through there and out the other side. So those are all boolean together, and then we can convert that to an STL as in the other video in my collection if you want to export that out for 3D printing. As said, we'll get to boolean collections in another video. So I hope that's helped you understand how to mirror with CAD Sketcher and to use those modifiers in there to create this model. Hope you enjoyed that video, and I hope to see you again in the new one. If you're enjoying these videos and you would like to support the channel, then you can do so via my Ko-Fi page. That's at ko-fi.com/MJ3D Studio. Any donations will be used to help to expand the channel. I'd like to thank you all for watching, and I hope to see you again soon.